Chapter 6. Crooked Chimneys. Deserted again in the Ra, Dark wondered if the only thing he was ever going to finally learn here was that he was on his own for eternity. Like Matha, he was going to receive no help in his quest. The people who could have helped stood by and watched silently as he went in every wrong direction, trying to discover what they already knew. He didn't care for it. He didn't care for contrived tests of character or puzzles or whatever this was. They didn't seem bothered that time was fast running out. Or maybe that was what they wanted. That he, like Matha, would have nothing to go back to and so would have to stay with them. To wander eternally with them through desolate places. Ugh. Back in the house, he tiptoed within his socks towards Connie's room. He was halted by a noise. It was like the sound of a cow grinding her teeth in pain. It stopped when he opened the door. He went over to the bed and said, "Okay, Connie, the noble lady, she's a weasel, I mean a stoat, right?" Connie just grunted. Later, when his mother got up, Dark said, "What about a drip? They can use drips to get nourishment into someone like Connie, can't they? And more serious painkiller? Any normal human being would be roaring by now." His mum looked at him, puzzled at such a turn of phrase. "We just need more time," said Dark. The lack of sleep was making him absent-minded. "He's going downhill too fast." "More time for what?" said his mother, in deep anxiety, invading her voice. "Arthur, what are you talking about? What are you up to? I mean, they need to try something because he's not getting better." "Tell me you're not up to something, Arthur. I can't handle more trouble right now. Couldn't the local doctor come out and put a drip in him, even if he doesn't want to go back to the hospital?" "Maybe," she said, giving up on the questioning. She always let him off the hook too easily. "You know, that's a really good idea." Geography was the first lesson. Kira was at her usual desk near the back. She seemed pale and didn't look up when he came in. A few minutes into the lesson, Micheál's nasal whine crackled over the PA. "Kira Clancy, proceed to the principal's office, forthwith." Everyone else was shocked. She didn't look at anyone as she went. Micheál's office was a nasty place. Nobody wanted to spend time in the stuffy room with the smelly breath and eyes bulging with insinuations. The whispering started. "What did she do?" "You're Miss Perfect, not so great after all," said Laura, sitting across from Dark. She nudged him in case he hadn't known she was talking to him. All Dark heard was "your." "Quiet!" Everyone was even more amazed. Buzzcock was loud. Angry, in fact, for the first time ever. "That's very ugly. That glee at someone else's tumble from grace. That's not a nice thing. You must root that out of your hearts." They were all silently contrite. Dark knew they hadn't meant anything by it. No one had anything against Kira. It was just boredom made them pick on each other and on the teachers whenever they could. Like Salty's hens pecking each other apart in their little cages. There was only one reason Micheál could have called Kira. Not coming back for Sullivan's class the other day. It was his fault. And he knew it would hit her hard. She wasn't used to being in trouble. He put up his hand and asked, "Sir, can I be excused for a minute?" He would go to the office and tell the principal it was his fault. He had asked her to get him something in the bookshop and delayed her and then persuaded her that she'd get in more trouble if she came back late. He wouldn't let her off, but at least it would save her from being alone in the office with Micheál. But Buzzcock again was not himself. He refused. "But sir, I need to use the bathroom." Even Dark himself heard how untrue that sounded. "Don't agitate me, Mr. McLean," Buzzcock said, looking straight at Dark with black eyes. "I know what you were thinking. Just sit where you are. We all have enough trouble already. Don't you think?" What did he mean by that? How did he imagine he knew how much trouble Dark already had, or that he had planned to go straight into Micheál's office to be there with Kira? He couldn't even have known Kira meant anything to Dark. Even Dark didn't know that for sure himself. Kira came back a little while later. Nobody slagged her or anything. She walked past his desk. When the bell went, he decided he would ask her about what Micheál had said on the way to Matt's. But she walked past him quickly, and then, irritatingly, Buzzcock called him back. "Yes, sir," said Dark. "I was talking to Mammy Una. Miss Moriarty," he said. Dark said nothing. "She told me you're one of the Macleans from Killahara." "Kill, we call it, sir, yes. Full original name, Chull an Fla, or the Woods of the Festival." Dark was impatient. He didn't care about this. "Listen here, Buck," said Buzzcock, dropping the faraway tone and suddenly sounding like a person from the heart of the country. "You are bounding that boyo that goes by the name of Salty, aren't you?" Dark was very taken aback. He had never heard a teacher talk like that. Buzzcock now had his full attention. "Yes, our ground, my uncle's ground," Dark responded. "The Brown River is the boundary between us." "Your uncle?" "Not just your uncle. That's Maclean land going way back. Your father and many good men before him were brought up there." Dark had no idea where this was going. "I've heard tell," said the teacher, hushing his tone and coming closer to Dark. "A little bird told me, we might say, that you're getting into a bit of a tangle with this same gent." Dark was getting very confused now. How many people were silently watching his life unravel? "You need to be fair wide," continued Buzzcock, still talking the way old people in the hills behind Kill talked. "Fair wide indeed. Why, let me tell you something, Maclean. I have not always been a very good man in my life," said Buzzcock, staring as though he expected Dark to be shocked. "It's true. I have been driven wrong at times by pride and selfishness. I've been on both sides of the barrier. So when I tell you that someone is a purely bad person, I'm qualified to say it." "I don't see what this has to do with anything, sir," said Dark. "I was born in the Kill Valley," he said. "My people were from there going way back. When that person arrived in Kill, he told my late uncle that he was from around Ardfert. But the postmaster up there is an old friend of mine, and he says no people of that name were ever heard of in all of Kerry." Dark was silent. He really did not care where Salty came from. He didn't want to hear what else this old man knew. But he could not get away as Buzzcock was standing too near the door. "Take a look around you and Kill," he said. "You've not had great luck in your household, I believe?" Dark did not respond. "Do you think you are the only ones?" Buzzcock continued urgently. "There was a lot of good fortune in that townland when I was young. We had too much, some outsiders claimed. It was said there's a huge colony of little people somewhere in those parts. The Ras up there are not just clumps of scrub, you know." "I know," Dark had said before he realised he was saying it. "And it was said that the people of Kill, yours, mine, and others, were a bit too neighbourly with those good people. As if there was something wrong with two civilised peoples helping each other out now and then. When I came back from foreign parts, that had all changed. There's only a single house in Kill that has even a day's worth of luck since that person arrived, claiming it to be a nephew of old Jack Curtis. From the day that Jack was got floating on his face, a curse fell on this sad valley. Every chimney in it turned crooked with hatred. So now, just be careful." Dark didn't know what to say. "If you ever need advice or anything," said Buzzcock, gone back to his teacherly face and voice, as though a pain had passed from him, "here's my number." He ripped a page from his unused geography textbook and wrote across the information on precipitation with a felt pen. "Thanks," said Dark. Sure, it was one number he would never be phoning on for advice of any kind. At break, he decided to stay in school for a change. He sat near Kira in the cafeteria, and when he nodded to her, she looked away. He sent her a text saying, "How did that go with Micheál?" She didn't reply. He left. He didn't care that his mam and Connie would be at home. He would not bother to delay and would not even bother with an excuse. When he got home, the kitchen was filled with smoke. An east wind always blew smoke back down the agate flue. He opened the front and back doors, allowing the draught to clear the smoke, taking the heat along with it. His thoughts were of Kira, and of bad luck and hateful Chimneys. Maybe someone who had seen them together in town had advised her to keep away from him. Maybe Micheál had shared with her his view that he was a boy committed to a future in muck and ignorance. Or maybe Kevin had told her about the sometimes hard life in Kill, and about Connie and all. Okay. But that was her choice then. He would be fine about that. He had other things to be worrying about. He was a while standing with his back to the open oven door, thinking on this before he even remembered to check on Connie. The sheets were pulled back and the bed was empty. The room was silent. He finally noticed that the whole house was silent. Dark took such a fright that his fingers trembled on the screen of his phone as he called his mam. "He's here," she started explaining calmly. "Back in the university hospital. He's in ICU." Her attempts at being level trailed off and she dissolved. After a bit she resumed. "He is in a tent with tubes and wires all over him, Arthur. He was too weak to resist when the ambulance came. The GP shouted at me for not having called him sooner. Rightly so. I don't know what I was thinking about. Can you get something for yourself to eat? I'll probably stay down here for the night, and I'll ask Brian to bring you through tomorrow after school." On his own in the house that night, with no chance at all of sleep descending, he headed down to the Rah earlier than usual. The Farjarg appeared before the old man or any of the others. He was the last person that Dark wished to deal with tonight, but he greeted Dark civilly for the first time. Maybe he thought his clever bitterness would be wasted without witnesses. "Maybe you know where I go if I wanted to bump into the noble lady," Dark ventured. "She'll be around somewhere. That I do know," he said quietly. "I'd be very thankful for anything more you can tell me. I believe that you're not as bad as you make out." "Watch your mouth, boy," he growled. "And I know you were very wise," said Dark. "Are you trying to cod me?" said the ugly red puka testily. "Do you think you can cod the greatest codder of all time?" "No, that's what they all say about you," lied Dark. "Indeed." He came down from his high oak branch and stuck his chest out. Then he let out a gargling laugh. "I know you're trying to butter me up, boy, but I like it. And I'll allow you credit for not being as gormless as you look. Where could I find her?" "She won't be far from here, and she'll know you're looking for her. She'll introduce herself if it pleases her to. If it doesn't, there isn't a damn thing anyone can do about it. Surely you don't think the big owl fella would keep her hiding place a secret from you if he knew it? Although some of Micheál's friends may be stingy, some stupid, and some dry as donkeys' droppings in June, there's no one coming here that would set out to make things harder for you with puzzles and conundrums. Surely to Dagda, you know that much by now." "I suppose I do know that." "Well, you just keep coming down here as long as you are welcomed, and that's your best chance of seeing the lady." "Thanks," said Dark. "Don't be asking me stupid questions, you lanky Amadon," screamed the puka suddenly. He had seen the others approaching and he didn't want his reputation damaged. As the long-haired woman, Conan, and the old man came through the trees, he added, "I have a good mind to beat some sense into you." The old man asked Dark how things were, and Dark told him. "Son, courage is not for good times, it's for bad times," said Micheál, then paused as he looked at him. "I hope you will find enough of it inside you to carry on through." Then they all sat at the fire, and the old man started.